This week in VR, I jump into a new game called Tiger Blade. It's basically Time-crysis, but with a samurai sword, and it's really, really good. You should definitely check this game out. Elsewhere, Samson plays a new game in mixed reality called Yuki, and he actually completes it altogether. The PSVR 2 has been halted in production, well, allegedly. And in our second part of the show, we are joined by the folks at VR Monkey to discuss their brand new title, Sky Climb, which is out next week. All that and more, so let's talk Oculus. Let's Talk Oculus, a VR podcast, is proudly sponsored by the good folks at Patreon. If you want to support the show, join us on patreon.com/Let's Talk Oculus. What's up, Oculus nerds? Welcome back to Let's Talk Oculus, episode 129. I'm your host, as always, Dan from Playtest VR, and I'm joined by my co-host, as always. It is Samson. How are you doing? What is happening, Samson? What is happening in the world?
There's so much happening. Getting ready to go to PAX East, hang out with Mateo, Rough Talk, hopefully the PSVR Without Parole guys, and just really looking forward to it. How's things out west?
Out west, we don't really have, we have PAX West, but that's not until September, and I actually don't know if that's as recurring as PAX East, but I don't have any exciting events to look forward to. Mm-hmm. Just playing a lot of samurai games in VR, but we'll get into that a little later on. So yeah, you're going to PAX East. Obviously, if anyone listening to this is also going to PAX East, definitely hit Samson up, because then he'll come say hi. Maybe he'll give you a hug. Maybe he'll give you a handshake. I don't know what kind of guy Samson's like in person.
Depends what time of day you catch me. Mornings, no freaking hugs.
Yeah, not until after the coffee. After the coffee. All right, let's get straight into the show, because obviously we have a great interview with the folks behind Sky Climb later on in the second part. In the first part, though, let's kind of go through what we've been playing, and obviously start off with the Walkabout tournament. So, Samson, give us the spiel of the Walkabout tournament of week 3, I believe, right? Week 3.
You are correct. It is indeed week thrice. The third week, we had Arizona Modern was our easy course, and in 5th place we had Rockin' Horse with minus 23. That's Rockin' Horse Brat, by the way. I shorten it in my script here, but 5th place Rockin' Horse Brat with minus 23. 4th place we have Parody for Life and Coball Dave with minus 24. In 3rd place we have the spryest of the guys, Spry Guy, with minus 25. And in 2nd place, we have a tie at minus 26 between Destiny 11 and Guido. Getting some good competition here with the newcomers. And in 1st place, you know him as Matt. I know him as Matt916 with minus 28. Crazy.
Wow. I feel like Matt916 is going to finish top every single course, but that's a good thing, because in a way, if you go join our Discord, link in the description below, totally free to join, you can message Matt in our Discord in the Walkabout channel, and he'll probably take you out for a round.
He did offer.
Yeah, so he'll probably take you out for a round, and you can see what he's been doing, and you can see that he's not cheating. He's just bloody good at the game. It's just bloody good. Samson, where did you finish on Arizona Modern?
I got my personal best, and I was at a minus 20.
Minus 20?
It was middle of the pack. Yeah,
you hit a minus 20, you're like, okay, that might be up there finally. But no, we've got some great players in there, for sure. Let's move on to the hard mode, Samson. We had hard mode with the Ice Lair. Give us the scores for that.
Yeah, I was hoping Ice Slayer would be a great equalizer, and it kind of turned into one. In 5th place, we had a tie between the Maestro and Guido at minus 7. In 4th place, we had another tie, but this time between Rockin' Horse Brat and Spry Guy at minus 9. And the top 3 this time are all loners. That is to say, there are no more ties. In 3rd place, we have Destiny 11 at minus 11. His username checks out. Second place, we have Parody for Life at minus 13. Parody said she got her score on Arizona Modern and really just focused on this. That is clear. But it wasn't quite good enough because in first place, you want to take bets? Anybody taking a bet? Because we have Matt 916 at minus 16.
Wow. That's the impressive part about this is that this is a brand new course. There's brand new physics. And of course, I'm sure, that the top players there, they've gone in and practiced quite a lot over the week. But still, to get like minus
2 hole-in-ones
from Matt 916 as well.
On the hard.
Do you know which hole?
I do. Hole 5 and hole 15. I don't remember what those are, though.
No, I don't remember either. I'll have to go and check those out again. But my gosh, those scores are... The Ice Layer, I mean, I didn't enter in this week, but the Ice Layer, I remember playing it, and I got in the plus by miles, like in the double digits plus.
I had a 7.
Yeah, 7. And I feel like that's a somewhat normal score on the leaderboard. Anything in the positives, but...
I think about half the people were in the positive on this Ice Layer.
Yeah, which makes sense. So if you can even get into the minuses for this, that's very impressive for Ice Layer, especially for a new course starting out. So amazing scores, amazing play by everybody. And obviously, if you want to get involved, just join in the Discord and basically just Samson will announce the courses every either Sunday or Monday, normally Monday, right? And then you could just DM him the results of what you'd get, and just make sure you put those scores in by 12 p.m. Eastern on the Sunday. Just make sure you do that.
Samson, and next week's courses. That's what I was
going to say. Yeah,
awesome. We have Labyrinth Easy and Tethys Station Hard, which is going to beat the crap out of people.
Both of those. Labyrinth Easy isn't easy either because of we've got a few tough holes in Labyrinth Easy.
Plus, you're just always singing at David Bowie's junk the whole time.
Is that what you do? Is that what you're thinking
the whole time? It's just so distracting. It's like
does it put you off, or does it put you in the right frame of mind for getting these balls in the hole?
It is distracting.
As he drinks his La Croix on there. Very good. Okay, let's move on to what we've been playing. Samson, I know you've been playing quite a lot, so I'm gonna start off here. Because you know me, I don't really play too much VR. I normally get into one game, maybe 2 if you're very lucky. But it's normally a 1 game a week. And today I checked out a brand new game that I've never played before. It's called Tiger Blade. Tiger Blade, I believe it is available on the official store as of now. I will just check whilst we're live on air just to make sure. It is $22 US. And it is right on the store right now. So Tiger Blade, for those of you who don't know this game, it came out maybe a few weeks ago or a couple of weeks ago now or so. Full disclosure, the developer did reach out to me and give me a code. And I said, I'll check it out. But I hadn't for a couple of weeks. And I was like, you know what? I want to check this game out.
It's time.
Imagine the basically the core gameplay is very similar to that of Time-crysis, Zombieland a little bit in a way, Dead Second on App Lab, very similar-esque. It's different, and we'll get into that in a second, but similar-esque. It's basically set in alternate Korea, and you have a samurai sword on your dominant hand, so let's say your right hand, but you also have a pistol. So if you press the grip button on your dominant hand as well, your samurai sword turns into a pistol, or you have different guns. So you have a shotgun and all that stuff that you can pick up as you go. But essentially you have a gun by pressing the grip button on your right hand, or if you let go, then you have the samurai sword. Okay. On your left hand, there's basically, I forget exactly what it's called. You have something that you can kind of grapple essentially, to different spots in the map. Okay. The unique thing about this game is that, well, there's a few specific unique things that set it apart from stuff like Zombieland, Time-crysis, and Dead Second and such. Is one, you've got many different enemy types, but you have shooting enemy type, and you've got a samurai enemy type, and you can't shoot the samurai enemy type. They're in blue. Okay, sometimes they're in different colors, but most of the time they're in blue, and you can only kill them with the sword. Okay, so they'll come at you,
Damn.
they'll attack you, and you have to block and kill them with the sword.
Is this like you're walking with the joystick free roam, or is it like, okay, so you're going like point to point like in those games?
Point to point, but yeah, we'll get to that in a second because it's very interesting in how they do it, and it gets really, really fun. It's a really cool idea. The other enemies, they're normally in red or pink. So you've got pink, you've got shooters basically. Then they have progressive ones as well. So you have a shooter, which is in pink, but if you face a shooter who's in red, they are always going to get you because every time they shoot, it's deadly accurate. So you got to make sure you dodge or put your samurai sword up to block the shooter. And obviously you want to shoot him first if there's a bunch of shooters. There's also like a white shooter who has more lives. So you have to like shoot him a couple of times or so, or 3 times. Same with the samurai. You have the samurai variant, which is in blue, which is a standard samurai. And then you have different colors where they might take an extra hit or something like that as well. Okay. But main thing to note is that you have a shooting type and a sword type, and you can only kill them with those specific weapons, right?
And the red ones, you got to dodge, duck, dip, dodge.
Yes, sure. Yeah. Yeah. So the cool thing about this is that if you look at a game like Dead Second, Zombieland, and such, you kind of either point or move your head to a specific point, and then you jump into different areas of the map, right? Where this one is a little bit different, where every time you kill someone with a samurai sword, or you use samurai swords to hit some boxes or a crate, okay, a crate of boxes, same thing, like what you mean? I mean like a big crater kind of thing. You know, like one of those like shipping craters.
Yeah, I got you.
Like when you swipe against those is what I meant. Then you progress forward. So you can only progress forward if you break something or kill somebody with the samurai sword. That's the only time you'll progress forward. There's no like left stick. That's
the only time you move.
That's the only time you move, right? Or you have on your left hand. I remember you have the what do you call it? I keep forgetting what they're called because it's a specific Korean weapon, I believe. But basically, you'll have the grapple. Let's just say it's a grappling hook. Okay, essentially it's on your finger. There's different items, like there might be a hook, or there might just be a yellow kind of area.
Is a hook on your finger?
No. On the map of such, there might be a hook. Gotcha. There might be like a yellow area on a ledge, or there might be actually a yellow samurai person that you can grab onto with your hook. So you basically
sounds racist.
You basically you point your your left hand towards where you want to grapple to, and then you press the grip, and then you pull it back, okay, and then essentially you fling over. So there, you either samurai through people, or you can use the grapple shot, shall we say, to move across, okay, which is really cool. So when you first play this game, and if for those people who do buy it, I do definitely recommend that you buy this game. It's a little bit frustrating at first to get used to like the movement and how it works, but you get good at it very, very quickly. It took me like maybe 15 minutes, and I was like traversing really fast, going through the levels, and super fast paced. And to be honest, one of the main perks to play this game is that you want to play the level as fast as you can for the leaderboards, okay? However, there's also a full story mode in here. So it's a full story mode. I think there's like several different districts that you go into, and within those districts, I believe there's 10 different levels within each one of those. As far as I'm aware, I'm nowhere near completing the game, but that's just what I've learned from the press release, okay? And they have like a full cutscenes and everything, right? So you can skip the cutscenes, but they have like full on cutscenes. There's a boss.
Voice acting?
Yes, all voice acting, all in Korean as well with subtitles. And there's a boss fight.
Annyeong.
So there's that was racist. Unless you
hello.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I just wanted to make sure. So the boss fights, there's boss fights as well. So for example, the first boss fight that you fight, as you get through the level, which is like a standard level, he normally pops up with his 2 machine guns firing at you, and you just got to put your samurai sword out to try and block them. And then as you get to the end of the level, you're in this arena where you're in the middle and he's popping out in different places. So he sometimes comes to the left, he shoots, and then you try and block it, and then you have to use your pistol to shoot him whilst he's reloading. Then he runs over to the next time of the map. So you're like going 360. So you really need space, basically, around you, but not too much. You if you're aware of your surroundings, it's gonna be okay. A couple more things on the game. One, it has a Korean hip hop soundtrack, which is awesome. It sounds really, really good in all the levels. So it's just great tracks all around. Kind of gives me the Underdogs kind of feel, but just in a Korean sense. And also, then they have these challenges as well. So obviously, you can replay the level for different leaderboards, perks, and such. And it's not just like getting through the level as fast as possible. There's also taking in the fewer hits as possible, and then there's also like hidden medals that you can go around and you can obviously collect them. But there's a challenges mode as well. So in the challenges mode, there's a bunch of different options. So one which I really liked is an agility challenge. So you have a course and there's no shooting. You have the samurai sword, but you have to traverse around the course as fast as possible. And I actually got 21st in the world, 21st.
Oh,
in the
boy.
World, 21st in the world. And there's like hundreds of people in there as well, which is pretty cool. I was like super fast. I got really, really used to it. And Samson, have you ever been climbing before? Have you been like rock climbing or bouldering or anything before?
Yeah, it's terrible.
So on like if you go like bouldering, you obviously have the rocks where you climb, but also sometimes you have these like big obscure platforms which are like you just kind of you got to be advanced to kind of hold on to them. So when you're doing the agility, you kind of there's some of those there, and you kind of grapple over to there, and then you're slipping. So you got to really like grapple quickly to the next platform and grapple. You end up feeling like you're Spider-Man, just jumping place to place, because obviously if you don't do it quick enough, you fall to your death. But there's other ones, like there's a shooting range with different types of guns that you can do as well. There's also a combat one as well, I believe. I didn't play all of them, but the agility one was really fun to play as well. So there's a lot you can do with this game, and I'm having so much fun with it. I can't wait to play it again when I'm done with this pod, to be honest, because I was playing it just before we went on, and
it's a good workout.
It can be. You do get really fast, and you're swiping, and you're shooting, and it feels a bit like pistol whip when you are shooting. That's definitely how it feels. But then obviously it's different because of the samurai. So yeah, maybe you could get a good workout. I'm probably not in there yet. Maybe one of the challenge modes where it does require you to. Oh, sorry, not it wasn't. So the combat challenge mode, I just remember I didn't write it down. I should have wrote it down, but. It is a survival mode, so it's like you just keep getting waves and waves of enemies, and you just gotta last as long as possible. So maybe that will be more fitness related in that sense. But you could definitely break a sweat. But I didn't really break a sweat. But I'm still early on in the game, so it might get progressively harder. It does get harder.
Plus, you're in incredible shape.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but yeah. It's a great game. It's actually a fantastic game. I'm having so much fun of it. I'm actually having a bit more fun than I did with Underdogs. Underdogs is so good.
No way.
But I just like the story. I like the whole aspect of this. And the only thing that this has that this doesn't have a part that Underdogs does have is the polish. This is a really well thought out game, and it's a really good game. But Underdogs is so polished. In every aspect. That's the only major difference in terms of how much fun. Like, I'm having so much fun in this game, and I couldn't recommend it more than enough. So definitely try out Tiger Blade if you can. Like I said, I think it's $21.99 US, and it's well worth it. I'll see if I can pop a referral code actually in the Discord and on the Oculus referrals. I'll put it in there. But yeah, having an absolute blast. Go check out Tiger Blade.
Nice.
Samson, over to you. What have you been playing?
Yes. Well, first I'm going to start off with I had a couple friends come into town last week who only get into VR when they see me. So I threw one of them who gets really motion sick easily as well. Like she got car sick in the 10-minute trip we went somewhere. Anyway, I put her in Cubism and mixed reality, and she enjoyed it. She really didn't want to fail at any of those puzzles. Like, she wanted to do the whole line of them. She just kept going.
No, she good.
And
that Cubism can trip up some people if they're not.
Yeah. So at first, I put her into a puzzle like I was on, I think, and then I just had her start a new game.
Yeah.
And where you start on just like basically a flat plane, and then she was able to progress nicely.
Nice.
And then I also put her in. She has a lot of writing, investigative reporting, I guess, maybe. I don't know what she does really. Some sort of writing. Anyway, I put her in JFK doc because I love this JFK doc, and I put one of my friends in just for the 8-minute first part, and then she had to go somewhere. Then I put this other friend in. And she did the first 8 minutes, and I was like, I'm not going to say anything. I'll just, if she wants to get out, she knows she can just say it. Like, she knows I'm right here. Mm-hmm. And she watched the whole thing and loved it. Yeah.
No way. Yeah, the JFK Memento is phenomenal.
We need more of these documentaries in VR.
I agree.
For sure. Anyway, myself, I continued my Synth Riders. A lot of mixed reality outside at work during breaks. Workouts I've been trying to get in. Sometimes Tuesday, Thursday mornings. Some multiplayer rooms. Actually, yesterday I was playing at work, and somebody came out, started recording me. I could see them recording me, and I said, hey, I'm on a Quest 3, and she. Have you ever seen the meme like, are you winning, son? And she asked me, are you winning? I was like, I'm playing a rhythm game. There's no real like winning here. But yeah, that cracked me up. Grid Legends, this game is getting harder and harder as I progress. So I'm only doing like one race a week. Is slow.
Have you mastered drifting yet, or is that?
No, I've skipped that. I've told you I've skipped drifting.
You skipped it. Yeah. I didn't know if you were gonna go back at it and try again. No, you've given up on that one. Yeah.
Maybe if I have to at the end. Yeah, we'll see. I've been playing some Pop 1 Sunday nights at 10 Eastern. Join in if you want. We've been doing private lobbies. Been real fun. One of my friends, Red, made a very cool map. We've been playing that one weekly as he's been building it up and up. He had 2 spaceships the first time we played way up top. And the second time we played, he had drawn in like one spaceship shooting the other, and there was an explosion. It's pretty cool. Nice. It's like a piece of artwork.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's also kind of fun to see it develop.
Yeah, I didn't know that you could have that level of customization with the map builder.
Yeah, a lot of shapes apparently. Beat Saber, I've continued to play. Setting those scores on my Daft Punk. Also, shout out to Brandon VR who told me Supernatural now has an Eminem song again. So if you're into that,
nice. I haven't hopped into Supernatural for like a week or so I haven't seen it, but interesting.
Well, yeah, the real Slim Shady wants you to stand up. I don't know it's probably not a new one. I don't know.
He's still going.
He is still going, but is that what people want a Supernatural to? I don't know.
Fair enough.
So I tried Iron Guard VR, which I haven't played. Iron Guard MR mode, which I haven't played the VR mode. But it plays like a wave shooter. You turn one whole wall into basically a VR portal world, right? And then the
Yeah.
enemies just come at you and you shoot them and they come
Yeah.
into your room. I didn't play for very long, but I got the idea of what the game was. I was trying to figure out if I should show my friends. Ultimately, I decided not to, but I'll probably go back. I want to go into the VR game and see what that's like. But yeah, I think it's sort of like a tower defense type of deal.
Yeah, I was just looking at it, and you can also get a free trial if you want to try it out on the Quest Store for, I guess the free trial is 2 hours. Actually, it can't be. I think it's less than that. But anyway, there's a free trial if you do want to try it out on there.
Yeah, it might be 2 hours because it's not the same. You know, they might kind of equate it to
I think they vary it depending on the game.
Depending on the game. Good call. Because some games you can beat in 2 hours. Right?
Exactly.
Or like a movie experience. Mm-hmm. Speaking of MR, though, I got into Yuki, and I set up a probably 15 by 15, 12 by 12 or so square in the driveway outside. And I played, it took me 26 minutes. I did the entire MR mode. I think it was 10 to 15 levels, somewhere around there. Very fun. Way easier in a huge space because I was just walking in a circle, basically, dipping and diving and dodging all those bullets. Pretty fun. It's pretty fun.
It's like
I had 2 boss levels and then just waves.
It's kind of a mixed reality Space Invaders kind of feel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Nice. Yeah, I haven't seen this game before, to be honest.
It's it's like a bullet hell type of game. You basically play like an action figure that you're trying to pretend kill all these enemies. Well, you're actually killing the enemies, but if you were playing in real life, you'd be pretending.
Do you prefer it in mixed reality then?
I've only tried the virtual one like once, I think. I basically bought this game because I knew it had an MR mode, and that's what I was most interested in. I should probably play the campaign sometime, but I don't know that I will.
Fair enough. All
right. What else we got? We got into a level 11 table tennis. Once again, I mix in at work breaks since others with 11 table tennis. I'm loving the mixed reality mode so I can see what's going on.
Yeah, I agree.
And when I need to end my break, so to say. Dan, then I got into World with 3 O's again. I've basically been playing this game weekly now. I want to get a crew in with 8 people and do some verses, but I've been enjoying it with Pollinator and Jenna and my friend who was visiting. We got her into, and she enjoyed it as well. It was a good time.
Nice.
It was a good time. She was actually very impressed with how high def everything was. So there you go. Normie thinks it's cool.
Yeah, that's what we want to hear. That's what we want to hear. And that's all your games that you
yeah, I mean, I got into Skyclimb. I did get into some Skyclimb. It felt like a lot like Grab, which is another VR platformer I've talked a lot about. Whereas in Grab, you grab the world to move yourself through, or you can grab and jump. This Skyclimb, you have cubes all around the world that you can launch yourself through, and then you can fly, glide, drop yourself faster, and you're basically trying to speed run through these levels as fast as possible. Or first, really, it's figuring out how to finish the level, and then you're figuring out how to go fast.
Mm-hmm. Did you like it?
Yeah, it's pretty fun. It's a pretty good platformer. There's not that many platformers. It's not that very deep of a game. There's a basic storyline. But I love these devs are so nice, as we'll hear later on in the episode, and they're incredible at staying on top of their games and updating them. We've seen it with Galaxy Kart, so I think we'll probably see it with Skyclimb. The story to how Skyclimb came to be is pretty impressive. Yeah, I'll probably get back in. I mean, yeah, I gave Grab a good amount of time. It's been a while since I hopped in, but I think it could scratch that platformer itch.
I like Skyclimb too. It's I like how it's just more of a unique title. I know obviously you said Grab has a very similar kind of mechanic in some sense of a way, but that's only another game, right?
There's not many.
There's not many, if any, kind of games like this, and it's we talked about a platform of Max Mustard last week, and Max Mustard is a game that I really want to complete because it's so much fun. And Skyclimb right now is another one that I kind of want to. I'm not sure if completing it just yet, but like Skyclimb is a little bit difficult to complete compared to Max Mustard. Because Max Mustard, I can literally just sit down and just play this game. Where Skyclimb requires me to move, so it requires me to play it when I want to move, rather than in that sense. But yeah, it's still a well thought out game, and yeah, it takes a second to get into it in terms of like figuring out how you can traverse the world. But very similar to Tiger Blade that I mentioned earlier. Like once you get used to it, you can get really fast at it. And,
it's definitely it's like it with Grab too. A lot of the and Gorilla Tag really. It's not like Gorilla Tag, but Gorilla in that like when you need to learn sort of how to nail those movements, and once you get them down, it's that's where the fun sort of begins.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so what I wanted to kind of just speak about a couple more things before we get into the interview. One, Samson, the topic of the show was going to be our favorite goofy games in VR. Like when you're talking about goofy games, we're talking about the wacky stuff, and I'm not going to lie, I went through my full library of games that I have and realized that I only have
all 9 games.
All 9 games. I have more than that, but I went through all my library of games all the way up to the first game that I ever bought, which was Walking Dead: Saints and Sinners, and realized
how'd you did it in chronological order? You can do that.
Yeah, you can. What did I do it on the computer? Yeah, I did it on the computer. Yeah, I did it on the Quest Store. If you go into your like account history purchases of all time, you could just go straight through, and you could do it via like digital purchases or like subscription. You can kind of now you want to do it, don't you? You want to find out. And I went through and I realized that I actually don't have many, if any, goofy games whatsoever in here. So I was like, okay. Which is weird. I always thought, VR could be a great medium for some wacky titles that, you could play. So I was like, okay, let me just go on the Quest Store. And I went through this Quest Store and I was like, there is actually not many goofy titles out there. Like there are a few, but there's not many, which is a weird thing. Because to me, I feel like some goofy games could be really fun and you could say something like Job Simulator and such could be goofy, for example. But those kind of games would be so much fun in Questa, and I feel like there's not many of those, especially recently. There's not been many that's come out. So when I was thinking of a list of potentially 5 games of goofy games here, this is reduced considerably down to 2, and even 2 was a stretch. So we'll get into that in a second. But
Dan, I'm just realizing that you can't sort by date. You got to scroll.
Yeah, you got to scroll. Yeah, and that's messed up. Yeah. So that's you out.
A lot of scrolling. Well, I'm just going to keep going, but it's not fast.
Fair enough. Okay, so in terms of goofy games,
but I agree with the goofy with what you've said. Yes,
there's not many. Yeah, I picked out 2, and then I'll say both of them, and then you can go into yours. The first goofy game is probably the goofiest of them all, and is the best one that I can find, to be honest. That's What the Bat. What the Bat is actually a game that I completed. One of the very, very few. I can probably count how many on my one hand, how many I completed. Probably 3 games in VR. And What the Bat was one of them, just because I had so much fun in it, and it was so easy to get into because it's just these levels can take you either 30 seconds or like 2 minutes a maximum, and then you're out, right? So you can go, okay, I want to do like 5 levels and get out of there and such. And there's so many, I think there's 100 levels in What the Bat or something like that. But
right, but they're quick. They're like micro levels, like WarioWare type of deal, right?
Yeah, exactly. Some take you longer than normal just because you're figuring it out and maybe you don't get it right. But it is really fun, a fun game. I would probably get it on sale more than anything. But What the Bat is a fun, wacky game. And for those of you who don't know, your hands basically turn into baseball bats and you have to play the whole game with baseball right hands. So like, say you're trying to brush your teeth, you're trying to get ready, you're trying to serve up some sandwiches at the deli, you're trying to park a car, all these different things, but with baseball bats. Sounds stupid, and it really is. So that's one of them. And then the other game that I put in was a Surgeoneer. If I could say that correctly.
I think you did.
Surgeoneer is it's a bit of another stupid game in there. And to be honest, it's not the best game by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, it was costing me
tracking, right?
It's hand tracking or controller. Like the cool thing is that you put your controllers down, it switches to hand tracking immediately, and you pick your controllers up, it switches to controller immediately. It was pretty impressive. That was the most polished thing in there. Everything else is as wacky as the game is, to be honest. Like you're going in there, and let's say the first level you have a heart, and you need to stab the heart, you need to bring it back to life, and there's some wacky stuff everywhere. You have different tools and such that you can play around, and then you can, after you get past the heart, then you actually have like, maybe you're doing brain surgery or you're doing like a kidney replacement or something like that. It's not for the faint of heart, shall we say, this game. And I can see, I think this game is done really well on YouTube. I think a lot of people have got like millions of views on videos because of how wacky this game is. Kind of like a job simulator kind of esque. I don't think I'd recommend this one though. I just put it on there because that's the only other one that I had. But because it's just a bit unpolished and a bit too wacky for me. But yeah, they're the only two real goofy games. We need more goofy games. We need more like job simulator-esque kind of games. But
says nobody other than
says me. I feel like VR would be perfect for goofy games. But anyway, Samson, what are your picks for goofy games?
All right, Dan, let me stop scrolling the Meta Store. Let me get to
It's still going.
I'm in 2021 now.
Damn. Okay, you bought a lot of games. It took me like 5 minutes.
I passed some quests too. There were a few quests in there. I was like, oh yeah, those were quests I bought for people, huh? All right. Yeah, I have a tough time with the word goofy because I feel like people define it very differently, right? I feel like yours were goofy in the mechanics, like right, like your hands, the hand tracking of Surgeoneer is supposed to be like kind of wacky, like you're doing kind of
wacky is probably the right word for that.
Yeah, and what the bat, you got the bat hands, whereas I'm gonna interpret this more as goofy, like silly, more silly. And I'm going to start this off with Trover Saves the Universe, which it actually might be deprecated. I think I might have heard that actually. But here I am. I've said it, so it's too late. I've gone too far. It is a platformer, and it's ridiculous. It's like the Rick and Morty, just they're saying crazy things. There's a good amount of swearing, and it's just wacky. And yeah, if you're into a platformer that you can play seated, I recommend that one.
It's actually a game that I really wanted to play and didn't play, and now I can't get it anymore. It's off the store. You can still, you can see it on the store, but you can't buy it or download it or anything.
Yeah, that's a shame. I wonder if it's on Steam and or PlayStation, or if it's just off of Meta.
It is on Steam still. Yeah.
And then I'm gonna. This was a tough one. My second choice. I'm gonna give some honorable mentions to ones I don't mention because they're here, and those are Bonfire by Baobab, which is sort of an experience, but it's silly. It's silly. And Accounting Plus, which is by those Trover Saves the Universe people, because it is in your face, in that same way. It's very silly. They're yelling at you. Very ad-libbed, it feels, type of deal. But my real one is Galactic Catch, because I had a blast with that game. I completed that one in a week or two. Yeah. And I had so much fun. It's kind of silly. It's kind of goofy just in the plot, and you're fishing in crazy worlds. And if you like fishing games, I think you'll like it. and or just
Also,
chill games. Yeah.
also very polished and a beautiful color scheme and color palette to it and art style. I mean, art is Baobab, right? But like it's beautiful. For
Actually, this is
sure.
crazy going through this thing. I bought Bonfire before I bought Walkabout Mini Golf. The day before, in fact, in
Wow.
November of 2020.
I just want to also say that Accounting Plus is also off the Quest Store as well. You can still see it, but you can't buy it
Oh
or
my
download
gosh,
it either.
oh
But
my
it is
gosh.
on Steam once again. So I don't know why that is. I'm not too sure. If you know, please let us know in the comments. But yeah. Okay, so that was our like wacky slash goofy games and such. Like, if you have more, please let us know in the comments because I really want to know some more because I sometimes they're just really fun to just go into and play like 10, 15 minutes of this stupid fun. The last thing I want to kind of end with before we get into our interview. Next week we're gonna have a normal show where we won't have an interview and we'll have news stories and all that such, but. I just want to throw in a news story in there, but before we get into that, Samson, you're celebrating. Why are you celebrating?
I did it. I got to the front. Do you want to guess the first game I bought, Dan?
You had the Quest 1, right? That was the
Yeah, I can
first.
tell you I can tell you the month if you want. I bought it on Black Friday of 2019, which is the end of November.
I mean, Vader Immortal seems like the easy choice.
It came with those, so I didn't
Oh,
buy
okay.
them.
So they don't.
Yeah,
So they don't count.
yeah.
Early game. Robo Recall.
No, Dan, come on. You know what my favorite game is now.
Synth Riders. You bought
Yeah,
it.
but what would have been the OG rhythm game? It was Beat Saber,
Oh,
Dan.
Beat Saber. Yeah, yeah.
November
That makes
30th,
sense.
2019, my first meta game, Beat Saber.
Yeah, that makes a
Shortly
lot of
followed,
sense.
December 3rd, I bought The Climb. December 5th, Richie's Plank. And then I went a little crazy for, oh no, I didn't. December, Christmas time, I bought Thrill the Fight and Super Hot. There you go,
Nice. Look at those. All those games are like
my first
bangers.
5 games.
All 5 of those games are bangers. You're like, wow, this VR thing's pretty cool. All these games are amazing. Wow, impressive.
Yeah, I was just playing VR here and there until really,
Quest 2, probably.
really until Quest 2. Pandemic is when I started bringing out a bit more. But
Yeah,
yeah, those are my first
yeah.
5 games.
That's fun. That's fun. Maybe we should talk a bit more about that next week for sure. But okay, so quick news story, just because I wanted to just toss it out there, which is quite shocking. Um, Bloomberg stated that Sony has paused production on the PlayStation VR 2. They now Bloomberg's not always right. I've seen them be wrong before, especially in VR. So this might not be even true. But sometimes there's a good chance that they're right, but they say that it was roughly PlayStation have roughly sold 1.7 million units of PSVR 2, but there are well over 2 million units produced for the system. So they've now paused production on the PSVR 2. And obviously, you're never going to officially know that because Sony's not really going to say that, and they might just come out and deny it. But that's very interesting here and very sad to hear. As well. I mean, you can probably tell from the community, and if you're in that space and such, where there's not been much hype around the PlayStation VR 2. Obviously, the people who buy it, most of those people who buy it swear by it and really like it. And if you can, if it's your only VR headset, it's pretty solid, right? It's pretty solid, but it seems
It
like
does have the best version of a lot of the ports.
it does. It does have the best version of a lot of the ports, but it just seems like, as suspected, in some sense, that it's just not selling well. And I'm wondering that this thing was more dead on arrival from just the price point alone. To be honest, but that price point of
Uh,
being
it seems.
so.
I don't think this is. All this is saying is that they basically met the quota of PSVRs to sell, and they're not making more until they sell all those, right? That they
Mm-hmm.
made. I do think it's overpriced by probably $100 at the least. And I do think that they needed to probably port more PSVR 1 games over.
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's just overpriced by a bit, and in that I know it's the price value of the things you're getting, but I think they probably should have taken away some of those things, like
Yeah,
perhaps
like those.
eye tracking and or head haptics. I don't know how much, they could have probably taken $100 off of that thing and still made it really cool.
I think the fact that it costs more than the PlayStation itself is a bit of. I don't know how they did not think about that and go,
you know what?
why is it more?
Sell a package of both together for like 900.
Something like that. Yeah.
Where you buy both together and you get a deal. Like if you're going into our PSVR 2 ecosystem, we'll give you a deal on our PS5.
Yeah, something like that. But it's interesting because like Sony normally sells their hardware at a loss and they make their money back on software. But maybe not on the PSVR 2 potentially. But even if they are selling it at a loss, that's such a high price point. I think that might be the reason. I don't actually think it's the games more than anything. I think there's a lot of games on there. Yes, Sony could be doing more for sure. They could bring some more first party kind of IPs like they did with Horizon and like Resident Evil has and such like that. GT7, if they added like a God of War kind of VR kind of experience, completely standalone, like its own thing and such. Or maybe some sort of Uncharted kind of experience or something like that, then obviously that's going to help move units. But at that, I think it's the price, to be honest. I think that's the biggest thing. I think for us, obviously, VR enthusiasts who have a Quest 3 and such like that, we look at a PSVR 2 and go, okay, it's using some old tech in there, which is, it's hard to go back when you're so used to like pancake lenses, for example. But for the average consumer who has a PSVR 2, it's a real shame because this could have been the PC VR headset for the console buyer, and that's kind of why I wanted it originally. And it might be the price point as on top of obviously the Sony's output and support in the first year and a half.
Dan,
that's
the
really
first one,
it.
The first PSVR, I believe, went through a sort of a remodel type of deal, where they had sort of like a second gen of it. This could possibly be the lead up to that. Like they're selling all these, and then they're gonna, sell the next sort of
next gen. I don't think the PlayStation VR. I don't think the PlayStation VR had an extra, like a second. The PlayStation 4 and the PS4 Pro did, but I don't think the actual PlayStation VR had a second like refresh. I think it was always the same. To be honest.
I don't know. Obviously,
yeah, I think it was always the same. But you're right. I think the fact that they couldn't port some of those PSVR 1 originals over to PSVR 2 was a big misplay. And the fact that they've had so many layoffs recently and closed a couple studios, albeit they were studios who worked on VR titles before, but weren't actively working on VR titles. They were, I think, Sony London worked on live services and such by the time it was shut down. But it just doesn't bode well in terms of the VR space, and maybe Sony just have got too much and they just need to focus on the PS5 and they've came out with the PlayStation Portal came out, which I have, and that's selling like hotcakes more than they ever anticipated and such. They've obviously got the PS5 and the Slim, which is you can now buy quite easily, but it was still selling like hotcakes and such. And the PlayStation 5 Pro seems to be coming out at the end of the year. That seems like an incredibly heavy rumor that potentially could be true. And I guarantee that will sell out like hotcakes. And the PSVR 2, I think they may have just got this one wrong. And it's sad to see for VR enthusiasts like ourselves and such. But maybe it's not dead just yet. I'm still having faith that hopefully they can still revive it, or maybe scrap it and go for a newer version, which is much less expensive, but with a couple less features or something like that. I don't know, but
it'd be pretty crazy if they got in a situation where they just had to like sell them real cheap and then they sort of took off.
That's what happened. If they could half the price or like even sell it at maybe $3.99 compared to I think $5.99 is how much it is. I think that was going to do wonders. or 5, something like that. But I
But
think
yeah,
they do wonders.
look at you.
But
You're a Sony fanboy, and you chose the PlayStation Portal over it.
I won't say Sony fanboy, but yes, the PlayStation Portal is amazing. You know how much Ratchet and Clank that I've played over this week? It's unbelievable. I've never played the PlayStation more. Anyway, that will do for part one. Next week, obviously, we'll have a regular show, which we'll get into more of these news stories more in depth. But yeah, next week we'll have a regular show. No guest on for next week, but definitely we have the Sky Climb with VR Monkey. So stay tuned for that for part two. Samson is getting things ready just before we sign off here. Go for it, Samson. What's up?
Oh, well, don't be afraid to speak professional help. I said speak. Don't be afraid to seek professional help when needed. That's dark. These fortunes are getting worse and worse, man. I got to start reading a few of them.
I mean, it's not far. I mean, it's true, but yeah. Anyway, that will do for part one. We'll see you in part two, where we are with VR Monkey discussing their new game, Sky Climb. So we'll see you then.
Hey, we know public lobbies in VR games can be a bit toxic, feel a bit empty at times. That's why we created the Let's Talk Oculus Discord, a friendly community that you can join for multiplayer meetups, general VR chat, the game, and chat about VR, fitness motivation, and there's even a very impressive 3D printing channel. Join over 100 of our community members in the Let's Talk Oculus Discord for free. The link is right in the description.
All right, welcome back to part two, where me and Samson are joined by Raphael and Kaya at VR Monkey. Welcome to the show, guys. How you doing?
We are really happy to be part of the show.
Absolutely.
And this week we are in GDC, so it's easier to synchronize our times also.
Yeah, because you're obviously from Brazil, right? Brazil is where the studio of VR Monkey is, right?
Yes.
Am I correct?
We are a Brazilian studio. We've been focusing VR since 2015.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, you're not new. I looked at, when I was researching for this show, I realized that you've been involved in so many VR projects, whether it's your own games or like porting as well. I see you're involved in like Drunken Bar Fight, Galaxy Car, and obviously Sky Climb that we're going to call it today. But then you also ported games like Vampire Masquerade to PSVR 2, also Windlands 2, for example, which is quite exciting for me because we've never had like a guest who's involved in porting games. I don't think, Samson. This is our first time, so definitely intrigued to see learn a bit more about porting. But let's start off with Sky Climb, because that's what we're here for, right? What, like, for the listeners and the viewers watching this, can you describe what Sky Climb is to the viewers?
Okay. Sky Climb, it's our next game's launching on April 4th. It's a first-person VR platformer, and it's really using VR. It's a game that only can exist in VR. It doesn't exist in a flat screen, because you use your movement of arms and hands to move yourself from little blocks. So you grab a block and you toss yourself in the air in low gravity to reach the next one. And the aim of the game is trying to recreate a platform experience for VR using the classics. So it has heavily influence from Mario, from Crash, from old school games, platforming, and it brings, but imagine it, if you were doing this in VR, like, we feel that the right combination is not to press a button to jump in VR. Like, you should make a movement that makes sense. And we try to use only the things that the hardware is tracking. So you have your head movement, you have your arms movement, and that's it. And you use it as if your arms were wings, or if they are flapping, gliding. We try to make it a very natural experience of to the core mechanic. And the game brings like full experience. If you're alone and you play a single player campaign of 65 levels for 10 hours, we have also a multiplayer mode It's up to 6 players and 24 bots, and we try to bring the chaos of a Fall Guys match to VR. That's something that is lacking in VR also. And there's a level editor, so we can make like try to bring the community to our game, like invite players to build their experience and challenge friends on online matches and bring out what they think that's fun to the game. Like we try to make the best we can, but we believe that people can help with
Their
minds and-
imagination. Yeah.
yes.
It's a great kind of synopsis, and there's a lot to kind of break down in there. So let's kind of go into each one of those features one by one, because there is a lot that you're doing with this game. I think on the surface level, a lot of people will think, oh, it's a platform. It's maybe a children's game in a way, because it's obviously that kind of art style. But you dig deeper into it, and there's so much more to this game. So let's kind of start off with what I think might be the most interesting part, and that's the local motion. You know, like you decided, like mostly, I mean, all platformer games are third person. Even the VR platformer games that are out there, like we had an interview with the folks at Max Mustard last week with Toast Interactive, and they're bringing that out, which is an excellent third person platformer game. More cut to the same cloth as other platformer games, but obviously with some VR elements in there. But this game is, you've just kind of gone, no, we want to change the whole formula of platformers and do it completely from the ground up where in VR. And like you said, that this game can only exist in VR. So was that always the intention when you went into this game? You wanted to like kind of reinvent the wheel, essentially?
It's like not reinventing the wheel, but using the new wheel of VR to the platform. Because I felt like I'm a 37-year-old gamer, and VR brings me joy. Like after such a long time playing games, it's the opportunity of feeling for the first time things new to the game. Like I never shoot a grenade like backwards. I never had to hold a pen over a fire and try to boil something. And VR does it. But to make this, you have to impersonate the character. It's like it's first person, because this kind of interactions is about you interacting in the virtual space. And there are brilliant platformers in VR, but I believe that when they are done in third person, they are really close to bring the same experience to the flat screen. It's like it's not that new. We thought about something that is really groundbreaking, something you can't experience without this technology. And that's why we put a lot of effort, like redesign things that existed for 35 years, like a Mario game. It's about the jump and has that excitement of doing the perfect jump and the timing. But how would be this in VR using the capabilities of the hardware? So we try to avoid things like if the hardware is just tracking your hand and the hands, that's what exists in Skyclimb. We don't make a tracking of your body. That's not there. Like it's approximates trying to figure out where your body is, but you don't have to make this. Like it's exactly what you have: your hands, your head, and you have to use these movements to progress in the game.
Where did you get the idea to have the cubes all around? So for those listening, there's floating cubes all around, and that's what you can latch onto to launch yourself or sort of jump off of, if you will. And then you've either got to complete the level or land on another cube somewhere.
That's a curious story, because the cube works as an object that fits your hand, so it's the size of your hand. And with this, you don't have a problem about where you're grabbing the object, because the object is almost a point. But it could be a crystal, a ball, a sphere, or something. And the cube, when I start the game, I didn't knew like if you would have a storyline or exactly. And at some point, it was really early, like the prototype phase. I said maybe I could do a game about VR Monkey, because you have the toss mechanic, and we are VR Monkey, and the VR Monkey logo has a cube. Like if you check that,
Okay.
I'm
all
going to
coming
insist
together.
to bring this to the game, and I think it will work. But at some point we dropped like it has a campaign with a history, but there's a really light history. It's like Mario style. You just have to save the bring balance to the world, beating.
Naturally.
Yeah, that's the cube, and you have to bring balance to the world and beating a certain level amount of levels, and the VR Monkey team was kept outside, but we kept the cube because it's a really good sensation. Like it's a balloon universe, and the cube is soft, so when you grab it, it deforms in your hand, and that was something everybody likes about the game. So we kept it this way.
I will say,
We
even
have a
if
3D version of it.
Huh?
Like Raphael printed a 3D
Ah.
version of the cube,
Oh yeah,
and we have it at the office. And
it's actually
was-
squishy.
it's squishy.
Yeah,
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. Was it? So it sounds like to me that was that the first thing that you did with this game, like before you developed this with the story and such. Was it getting the locomotion right and getting that feel for it right before you developed into these worlds that we see today?
Yeah, this story we've been developing this for 17 months, but prior to that, like 4 months of prototyping phase, and when I was prototyping it, I really enjoy the climbing mechanics, but I'm not a dev itself. I know how to code something, but I'm really shallow in this part. And I was starting to make a game. I said I want climbing mechanics, and I already have all the default. Like you could move the player in the floor, you could grab a gun, you could grab. And so let me prototype the climbing. And when I did it, I accidentally did it in low gravity, and I when I did the first toss, I said, "Man, I think this is what I'm looking for." And all the rest is like a diversion. Like I should avoid all the rest. So I deleted the floor, the walls, everything, and I did just a map with cubes floating in the sky. And that time I said, maybe let me see if this makes a core mechanic. And from that time, we tried to experiment. Like the core mechanic was really proved quickly. Like it was enjoyable really quick. But I said, but can I make a game that has depth? Like people could play for 10 hours. Like what I'm gonna introduce. So there was for a couple of months, challenge was like, what else can I create? Like to challenge the player in a different way. So the loop of the game, we have 7 worlds, and each world has a different thematic and core mechanic added to the game. So for instance, in the third level, in the third world, it's an underwater world. So you're in the under ocean. It's the sky of a fish. So you gravity, it's upside down because as you are a balloon, you float, and this makes the feel of tossing very different from
cool.
from the first level. And that those small things were what I was searching during the prototype phase. Like, can I make a really different gameplay with just this core mechanic of tossing through the blocks? So if I discover things like if the blocks they have different colors. In the fifth world, some colors, like you jump and there's a king that's choosing the cubes that will remain in the map. So only red cubes can be grabbed. Only yellow cubes can be grabbed. And this makes another mechanic that feels really different. Tossing is very funny. So if there's a world with few cubes and you have to make long jumps, and that was
the super flings.
they study during the
And then you can flap. It makes you want like a Flappy Bird.
you become a bird. And so a long time was spent doing mastering the core mechanic, because it was not perfect. like this at the first, and also trying to see what we can get with the game. Would it be enough to make a really deep, interesting experience, and something that make us excited? It's like after months of prototyping, I present the game to Pedro and Kayla. They are my partners, and you know that people loves you, so they try to give you kind feedback when you show the game. Say, I prototyped something,
Yeah,
so
it's
you're
all
never
good.
sure
It
if
looks great.
is it really good or they're just being nice to me. And I said they played the game until the Quest battery go flat, and it never happened before. I said,
Wow.
man, I think they really like the game. I think this could work.
Yeah, you're
People,
onto something. There's something
yeah,
there.
there's something there. So
So it's just little tweaks, right? So you got like the core mechanic, and when you've locked it, you've added tweaks to, like you said, change up the physics in a certain world, or like change up the blocks. Or then I see, like, I've only played a little bit, so I've not got to World 3 at all. I'm still in the first world, but I noticed that obviously you got, like, you can fly in a way, like at least keep like a glide, and you can move your arms to kind of, when you're floating, you can move. So like you after you got the core mechanic, you've obviously added a bunch of other things that you can do in VR, which can kind of aid you to get across this level.
I was so mad I didn't try to fly before I was taught I could fly. I'm so mad at myself for that. Sorry, go on.
it's like we noticed that you spent just a small part of the time grab it to the cube in tossing. So this was not enough to keep players entertained, because it was like I just spent 20% of my time doing something and the rest I was just watching. That's not so fun. So all the assist mechanics, the glide thing, the flap, there's even a dash so that you can be more precise to where you're going. All those were important additions to the game, because it feels the whole time, the whole experience of the player, he's active. You are not just where I'm gonna fall. You're trying to fall in a specific cube, fine tuning. And that was also an important moment to the game, because like the prototype was like 4 months, but I think we spent 9 to 10 months adding those things to the core gameplay, and testing to see if it was like, now it's too easy, no, now it's too hard. So balance was also something important.
Oh, that first level, what's the record's like sub 4 seconds, I think. Once I saw that, I was like, oh, you can just fling yourself real fast to that.
No, when you create like the game and put in the hands of people, it's in early access through App Lab. So there's a lot of players, and you see the passion they have to beat the record and learn. They know more the game than we know. We did it. But that was an exploit. Like the mission in every level is to reach the end of the level that's marked by a guardian. So when you arrive at the guardian, you have to slap it. And the guardian was very fast, and he's high in every level. So it starts with the player and he runs away and you chase him. What we haven't thought about is that you could move. If you have a big house, you can move inside the guardian before the game starts. And
So
that's what people they were doing. Like
Wow.
the first person that did it.
That's why we playtest.
We wrote to him like, man, I just congratulations. I saw that you did an amazing score, but how? Can you give us a hint about what you're doing? And he said, no, I try to reach the guardian walking, and that was it. So now we are going to launch the game. We change it, and I believe that the fastest score should be something around 15 to 20 seconds. That's really fast, but 4 seconds, it's too short.
4 seconds, and they've not broken the game, but they've found some sort of exploit, like you said, to get
Yes.
past it. I mean, that's why you're in App Lab at the moment, is for these testing right before you get onto
Yes.
the actual store. But what I wanted to also point out is that I love the fact that when you press the A button, you respawn like instantly. I think that was a really important feature because this is a game that you really want to experiment. It's like a playground in a way, and you really want to experiment how fast you can get through a level or which ways you can traverse the level. And having that quick A respawn, like as soon as you miss up the jump, you already know you're gonna go flying, and you can press A, or you can put your hands together and you go down really quickly as well. So I think that was a great addition. Also, I wanted to mention, I don't think this gets talked about in the game, but when you die, like if you fall down and it makes you go right up to the top, the way your hands just blow up, like pop, like you're in space. I thought that was very funny.
Yeah.
That's really well done.
The exploding hands are like invisible walls and ceiling to the game. Because something that we notice is like, for the game design perspective, having no boundaries, it's something nice. Like you don't have boundaries. It's not scripted what you need to do. You're free to make the jump the way you think.
Yep.
You'll be well succeeded. But for the game design perspective, it was like everybody was trying to make the biggest jump possible to the end and go over everything. And people were telling, we need the ceiling, like we need boundaries. And I said, I don't agree, because it's really good to feel you're free in the sky and you have this freedom of movement. And putting ceilings and walls would be the opposite of that. You put the player in a box and try to make something.
But a timer.
But a timer would be nice, but not so literally, like a clock that goes. So maybe we can create a condition that could be like you lose your hands, because the defeat is also up to the player. Like we don't respawn him; it's instantaneously, but it's up to the player when he accepts that it won't work and he has to go to the beginning. So I had to show the player, okay, you don't have hands. In a world that you just have your hands, your head. So it's time to respawn and go back again. And that way we kept the freedom, but added a challenge. Like you have 12 seconds to reach the next cube. Let's make the challenge.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there is also the condition that the game can be played the way that you want. So it's a sense of say that, like, if you just want to fling yourself and speed up like a rocket, you can do it. And me and Rafael, we have very different styles. I like to do big jumps. I want to risk it all, like just one and get to the end. And when we were in the first prototype, I remember trying to do exactly that. Like the guardian was going away, and I was trying to be as fast as the guardian going away. And the beauty of that is that it rewards the player who wants to put more risk on the movement. But at the same time, it needs to have some kind of limitation. And the timer for doing big jumps is also very critical. And it was really important because we found out that in the first stages of the game, so the later stages, as you get further ahead in the game, you see this being applied to the design of the cubes. So, okay, now this cube is the exactly perfect distance that you can propel yourself between point A and B without exploding. So it makes so sweet that you can do the jump and then you start to hear your hands before they explode, they start to, pump up like, and you feel like, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna grab. That feeling, I think it's special when you are gaming, you need to have that.
I do love the sound design, because even if you're not looking at your hands, you can hear it and you know exactly when that moment's coming, and when you're like, I need to get me on a cube ASAP.
Sound is so important to VR. Like there's a lot of cases in the game that sound design was really helpful. because in VR you're not controlling the camera, the player's camera, and you're not sure if the player is going to look forward or he's looking back to the enemy. So everything in the game has a spatial sound, and it has to have a sound, even if it sometimes in the fourth world is a sky world, and people ask me from the team like, Rafael, what does the sound of a cloud? Because we have browsers that are clouds. You want to put sound on them? I say I want to, because the player must understand that the clouds is near him, but he won't be looking, especially if the thing is behind him.
Yep.
So you have crocodiles that they make a ticking sound. You have a sun that makes a fire sound. You need to make the player aware that something's going to happen, and not necessarily take his camera and make him look like he's looking to the cube, to the perfect jump. He can look backwards.
Yeah.
And sound makes this possible.
You're right. It's important to add to just the immersion as well, because it then it feels. I mean, obviously, it's not a real world when you get in there. It's like this doesn't look like reality, but at the same time, it's just it adds to that immersion of having that sound design, especially spatial audio, and to kind of go similar on the same aspect of sound design. I really like the music in this game, especially the menu music. I'm a big fan. I just had the menu music on playing for a little bit, for a second when I was in there. I was like, okay, this is a good track. I really like this a lot. And obviously I haven't gone and beaten the game yet, so I don't know what the tracks are in the later worlds. But with the sound design and with the music itself, was that outsourced, or was this all within your studio?
Like the most part of that was outsourced. We, as a game studio, we still struggle to have a full-time game sound designer at the studio. So when you're doing the soundtrack of the game, that takes like 17 months to be done. It's just a couple of months that the music is there. So we hired people for that time for the sound. And it's curious because as we are developing the game, we are also questioning yourself, what is the game experience? And when we started, we thought that people would be more relaxed in the game, and so we opted for something that was like a lo-fi experience, calm, and maybe to keep the energy level of the players. Like you can't feel tired. So I'm gonna make you relaxed, but the game is really stressful. You think that like everything is a balloon, it's very cartoonish, but actually the game, you need a higher level concentration. And after we designed it like 4 worlds, like 40 levels, we had to go back and do the music track for the first words because it was like another design option. And so no, what people the music needs more energy, needs to be more entertaining, and that was something that we cared about. And I'm glad that we had the time to redo it, because it pay off. So like it's
absolutely, it's great. I absolutely loved it. And sorry, Samson, you gonna say something?
No, good. I was just gonna say it seems to be common to outsource the music, as Richie's for Max Mustard. That's exactly what I think he said too.
Yeah,
a game dev studio can't do it all. There's a lot of hats.
You need a lot of project pipelines to keep someone specialized in music always full. So it's quite a challenge.
That's fair enough. So obviously the game has 65 single player levels. I think I read on that. Is there any more levels coming at launch, or are you going to launch it with those 65 levels?
We are going to launch with the 65 levels, but we plan to add more levels to the single player campaign, like a post campaign mode. So because the game is very accessible to people, we cared about creating an experience that could be enjoyable and accessible to a large number of people. So there's not so many crazy levels. Difficult. It is difficult. It is challenge, but it's something that's for everyone. But it try like if you're a really hardcore player, if you're beating the high scores, what you are gonna what will you want as the final levels of the game? Those we think we can design later and bring us updates and be much more challenging. Like you collect stars for each level you beat. You receive from 0 to 3 stars depending on the timing you have. But although you have like 180 stars to collect, you just need 60 to beat the campaign.
So,
The the spare amounts, like the stars that we want to bring something like you need 120 stars to unlock a special world,
yeah.
and then this world will bring new mechanics but be much more challenging. So it will be towards the guys that are trying to complete the game, like I want all the stars and I want to be the
Yeah.
and also bring more multiplayer experiences. Right now we have two game modes inside it. You have a racing mode in which you compete against friends and bots to reach the end of the level as fast as you can.
Are they playing at the same time?
Yes,
yeah,
it's a synchronous, and you have also a collecting hoop mode. So you have hoops around the arena, and the one that gets the ones with higher points faster is the winner. But there's room for so much more. Like we can have something like a PvP shooting with water guns. We can also have something like a tag game in which you put a bomb in a multiplayer. You have to put the bomb that's in you
Hot
to
potato
another
kind of
player.
thing. Yeah.
Right. So there's room for a lot of new mechanics, and we hope to bring this in the next
Like
in the
updates
next months.
further. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. With the multiplayer aspect of it is. Sorry, what I was going to say is, are you using your own like separate worlds for multiplayer, or are they using the worlds that are in single player, or is there a bit of a mixture?
They are created separately. Like
Separately, yeah.
in the single player, you compete with other players, but just through the leaderboard. So you have a list of who is the best player, and you have a ghost that's your ghost to help you to improve your own time. So you can
Cool.
check what you did before and check if you're doing better. The multiplayer has a different design because the starting point is much larger. You have a grid for 30 players to start the level,
Yeah.
and it's more the tracks are wider. That's a different approach. So I believe we have 13 multiplayer levels. I believe around 9 of them are racing modes and 4 are collecting hoops, and it's a tournament mode. So you have 4 matches, and you accumulate points. And the end of the 4 matches, one of the players is the champion, and you receive diamonds. That's the game currency to unlock customizations.
Okay.
So you have a lot of variety to the players. You can be like different colors, different accessories, different shapes, and by playing multiplayer, you receive new customizations and it keeps the game fresh.
Cosmetics. Very cool. So as we've never had developers, as they mentioned, who've made a VR port. I'm curious, first, which previous VR project helped the most with Skyclimb?
Which previous game was close to the experience that we have with Skyclimb? I think if we think about platform games that we did work with was Inlands 2. Like Inlands 2, it's an amazing game. I love John. We just had breakfast together, in fact, and we it is a game that nailed it. Like it works. Everything in their mechanics works. But at the same time, it has some similarities. They are so different because the whole concept of sky climbing. Like it's the bastard son of Mario with Fall Guys, in a way that we have the single player experience, but the multiplayer is just mayhem. It's just mayhem. You tap everyone, and it's so funny. And the single player, it has this beautiful thing about that. When you think that you are getting the knack of it, you understand. Okay, now I am really the master of this mechanic. We present a new mechanic,
Mm-hmm.
and that drives you crazy because okay, now I know how to do it. And then now there is a platform that you need to throw yourself into that platform to make a jump. And so now I need to do ricocheting around the level. And no, okay, now I got it. Then there is a Halloween world where you need to hide from ghosts. And holy crap, what's this? Like
that's for Mario.
We see the similarities.
I do really appreciate how the levels build on one another. Like I said, when I first started, I only thought I could launch myself, and then I was like, oh yeah, I got these jets. And then I was like, oh, I can fly, I can glide. Oh, I can fly. And I was so mad I didn't try it first, because that's just like my go-to thing, is just to try everything. But yeah, I do love how it just builds on itself. And I've only done the first 10 levels, I think, so far, but it sounds like it's just going to keep going and going and building and building.
Yeah, definitely keeps it exciting and fresh for the player as they progress through the levels, for sure.
Yeah, we also didn't mention, but the game has a boss fight by the end of each world. And I think this is also a big deal for the experience, because the boss fight's a combat experience after you just had a platformer for 9 levels. And this is really old school also.
Yeah, I'm on the big fish right now.
Yeah, like from the 90s, all the games had a boss fight for the final level, and that's something for nostalgic players. Like I said, I must finish it with a boss fight. It wouldn't be.
It's satisfying.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a proper platformer if you don't finish with a boss fight. Let's be honest. Like,
yes,
all platform. I think all the best platformers have boss fights at the end. So that makes sense. And then there's 7 boss fights, I think, is there, or is there one like after each world, right?
Yeah. The surprise, like for every world, there's a boss fight, but the final world is a boss rush. So you have to rebeat all the bosses in other context. So it's I don't want to spoil the final levels, but it's like the same boss in a different context. Like you change gravity, you change the order, what he's doing, or he's doing much more than in the previous experience.
That's so fun. So like, even though it's the same bosses that you may have seen before, it's a different experience, because they may have just like learned, after all these hours of you continuing going through, they may have gone back to the drawing board and learned how to fight you a little bit different, and then there's different mechanics in the world from then, so it's going to be a different experience. But that'd be cool just to revisit some familiar faces that you've seen already, and it really feels like a grand finale in a way, to wrap up the game.
And it's in a moment we are trying to close the game also. Like we have a history, like there's a lore presented to the player in the beginning, and the final world is where the lore ends, so you have the ending. Maybe we can make updates with introducing a little bit more lore for the other levels, because it's kind of not the ideal place right now, because we don't talk much to the player during the campaign. It's just in the start and the ending, because we didn't have the times and the funding to make it, but maybe we can bring that later.
Yeah, for sure. So let's
we
kind of
didn't
talk
have the funding at all.
That's okay.
This game is fully funded by our hard work with the ports.
It's great to do that, because if you look at your portfolio, it's full of like ports, and then you have the odd games that you do in. So yeah, it makes sense. You work on your ports, you get your funding, and you put it into a.
Is that how a lot like is like the behind the scenes, I guess, is the business behind it. It's like you got to do the ports, which isn't necessarily the fun part, but then those sort of give you the time to then do what you really creatively want to work on.
In fact, it's a funny story because since we are here from like very, very long time ago, we started doing anything in VR, like anything, events. There were times when we needed to close the studio, saying to the guys, "Hey guys, we managed to rent our computers and our headsets, so stop working right now. We're gonna take these computers to the event, and that's it." And after, I
Wow.
think it was in 2019 when we finally started to having more clients to port the games, like really directly clients. We had done some of portings for the platforms, and then we launched. We had at the time 3 titles, and we launched these 3 titles on PlayStation VR 1. And anyone who went through this experience know how traumatic it is. I think that's the best word. Like it is really hard to publish a game on this consoles. Like, and we realized that we learned a lot, and we could aid other people to go through that experience without then spending so much time and money onto doing that. And we started to offer ports, and luckily, right now, our company mostly have co-development contracts and porting contracts in the B2B side that have been able to pay the bills for developing our own games as a studio. We don't plan to stop any. We don't plan to, or like, okay, Skyclimb is a big success. It's amazing. Okay, guys, sorry, we will not do ports anymore. No, we don't plan to stop doing that. We think it's important for the industry itself. Like we want to, in fact, we want to increase that. We want to do more portings, like more translations from flat screen games to VR. But that's something that as a business is not that scalable, and we are always missing money. So it's something that we want to do to the industry, but we also want to keep doing the games as a studio. And I am happy to say that we are getting better and better. Like Galaxy Card had not a perfect launching, but now we can hear people from like Brian from PSVR with Parole saying that is one of his favorite games.
Yeah. That's on once a week PSVR without parole for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Like so, it drives us. It makes us really happy. The game is close to start paying itself,
Good.
Nice.
but it's still like and we got very good in doing games. Skyclimb is an amazing game. It's our, I think it's gonna be our best launch by far. And we have another 2 games on the pipeline. That one it's in production right now, and another one it's in prototyping. So we want just keep doing that stuff. Like if we could have more support from funding and that stuff would be amazing. We could do bigger games and increase our team, but I don't think that would make us just stop doing the ports. Like in fact, it's not that fun to do ports, but it is in a way.
I guess you
Like
you do learn so much. Or like you get to spend time with obviously the original developers and such, and then you also get to learn so much about a different platform. Because like say Skyclimb is coming out for Quest, and you maybe you've never like coded or created games for PSVR or so. Like bringing Skyclimb to PSVR may be much more of a challenge, but because you have so much experience in it through porting, it gives you a little bit of a leg up if you ever wanted to bring it up. And what I wanted to ask with porting is just what is it like for someone who are not developers? Like most of our listeners aren't developers; they're fans of VR. But what is porting a game like? Like say if you wanted to, let's say Vampire Masquerade of Justice, for example, bringing that to PSVR 2. Like is it a very difficult process, or is it straightforward, or like what is porting like in general? What is that experience like?
it depends a lot on the game because like Sony has a very strict set of rules that you can ignore. So there are games that we need to re-implement all the subtitles of the game because the subtitles of the game were made in a way that Sony doesn't like. Or other times we need to change options in the game. And sometimes we have like projects that are really smooth in the porting way, even though we need to change a lot of the things like, okay, all the tutorials now need to have the right controllers, all the text that talk about the triggers and the buttons need to be adjusted. We also need to, for instance, most of the games that we port to PSVR 2, we increase the resolution by 1.7 times the full resolution. And because we want to give a upper scale for the deformation of the optics of the headset. But because of that, we may have problems with the performance. So we need to keep balancing what we can do and what we can't. And sometimes we do like overall real lighting for a game. So it depends a lot from one client to another. But to be able, like I myself, I love working with performance. I have a degree with computer engineer, and it drives me happiness to make a game to run like without any kind of problems with high frame rate, to have the most smooth experience. I like to make the things as good as they can, and this makes me happy. But I know for a fact that a lot of developers think that this is the worst hell they could be put on. So there is this balancing, on finding what's the exact balance and the trade-off of what makes a good port a good port.
Have you ever ported anything to the Quest, or has it always been from Quest to PC or PSVR? Like, have you ever gone? The reason why I asked is that you're talking about performance and bringing like Vampire Masquerade, which is made for Quest, over to PlayStation VR might be exciting because you can really push the performance, and obviously you'll break things with the resolution and all that, but there's a lot you can push, and you'll make a much prettier version of that game on PlayStation VR. But have you ever gone backwards, i.e. like had to reduce down the resolution, had to reduce down and try and get it fit? Has that always been frustrating?
We have, and most times, more times than I would like to say that we had. Like there were projects that they were not running flat screen on a PC, and we ported it to Quest, and it was like huge amount of work. And a good example is Galaxy Card. Galaxy Card, which was our first PSVR 2 title, we launched it not long ago on App Lab, so it's running on Quest without application space warp, so it's running 72 frames per second on a Quest 2. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful to see that a game that was meant to be only for PSVR 2, we managed to do it to run on a Quest. But it is challenge. Impressive. It is.
Yeah, almost like just, and also especially if it's a game, if it's your own game like Galaxy Kart, it might be more hurtful to take things away that you don't want to because you've made it so good for like the PlayStation VR 2 with all the visuals and the performance, and then having to sacrifice certain things and making those decisions of what you have to sacrifice to make it work. It must be, obviously porting someone else's game, it might be a bit easier to make those decisions, but porting your own game might be a bit more difficult.
Depends a lot on the clients. Sometimes we go to the client and say, we need to take this shit out because it's not running. No, this is too much. This is important. We can't take that out. So it depends a lot. Like sometimes we don't, after some time developing games, you can't be attached to it. You don't have the pleasure of being grown to the game and say, man, I can't delete this character. If there is something that is buggy, and Rafael is the best one to talk about this because in the development of Skyclimb, I heard a lot of times, like, this is not working. Cut it out. Take out from the game. We have been on this for a month. We don't have too much time. We need to deliver the game. So cut it out. Yeah. Sometimes it's hard, but it's easier when it is only up to you. When you need to deal with someone else, not that easy.
I see with Raphael, it's not hard at all. Raphael's like, no, it doesn't matter. If it doesn't work, I'm going. It's gone. I'm not married to it. I can get. I don't mind.
Yeah, it's important to keep the whole picture in your mind. Like, I'm doing a game, I want it to have 7 worlds, 5 levels. I want to deliver it in like 17 months, but suddenly you are struggling with some problem. There's a problem here, and people are, you schedule it to solve in a week, and now being 3 days and things are not doing fine. I said, man, people say, can't we spend more time doing this? Like, spend more time doing this will take out something from the later part. It's always I can't figure out what I'm missing, but I know I will miss something. And you have to make it, man. I believe that 70% of what we want is already there. Like the 30%, I say, okay, I can.
You
take
can
a deep
refine it
breath and say,
later.
we can live without this. And the team's great. Like the team I've been working, Sky Climate, they're really great. And it just really breaks my heart to see their face. Like, okay, we won't have this. And then, no, we can try for just one more day. I say, you have just one day. If it's not like tomorrow, it won't exist anymore. We do it after the launch. I don't know, but we can't pass like
It is very impressive. You mentioned Brian Paul, and he's always talking about updates that you all are doing for Galaxy Kart, and it sounds like you have plans to do that for Skyclimb too. And so just want to give you some props there for being like just so active with your games and continuing to perfect them as even after post release.
Yeah, sure. I think it's the most useful time to have feedbacks from the community about the game. Unfortunately, like we can't have really large alphas and beta. So after the launch is when we really understand like what people really want, and it's so good to being able to provide this to the clients. Like they bought the game, they deserve like if we can make it, it's so good to provide to people.
Absolutely. That one-handed driving mode. I've never even done it, but I've heard all about it.
And I might say that there is something that made us able to do that, is that the VR community, like the discords, we try to get on the discords of most of the guys who talk about our game, and just to be there and listen to them. And the beauty is that most of the times we don't have that, that they just want the game to be better, and they want to try to talk to us about it. They don't want to point fingers and say bad words to us. They just want the game better. So this made us really happy, because we saw that every time we listen to them and make something to make the game better, they keep supporting us. So Galaxy Cards is one example of a game that would never be as good as it is right now if the community of the game wasn't as good as it is. Like, it fills my heart with joy when I go to a Reddit and someone is talking about the game, and I see people that I know that I exchange some words on Discord or anywhere else, and they defend our game. They go there, no, the game now is good. Don't worry about the reviews from 1 year ago. Now it has much more content, and the guys are great. And if you ask them, they do it. It's so. It's hard to describe the feeling of like, okay, now we have a community of our game. It's not haters.
Not yet. That's when you get really, really popular.
Man,
no,
if it comes to that point, I don't care, but that's what drives me crazy. Like, there is a small studio working hard to make something that we felt that everyone wanted to have. Like, there was no Mario Kart VR for anyone to play anywhere they want. So we bust our eyes off to make that. And then people, but that's not as good as Crash Team Race, or Mario Kart has a better variety of courses. Come on, man,
Right.
Nintendo. How can I compete with Nintendo? They have like 10 years of courses that they can just utilize. Like, I don't even know if Mario Kart 8 has new tracks. They just have old tracks, and that's enough.
Yeah, it's true.
They just have old tracks.
Yeah, that is true.
Absolutely.
And then you
So
see people playing
okay.
Mario Kart in VR that is not meant to VR. You get
No.
sick as hell. It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible. If you try it, you just throw. Like, I can't. I throw away
That one I
like after
haven't.
5 minutes playing. And
Oh, you get
this is
motion
amazing.
sickness.
This is my dream.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I get motion sickness a lot. I'm like, I am like the benchmark of the company. If someone's doing something, hey, Kayat, can you try this? No, man,
Yeah,
please
I'm not
take
gonna
it out.
lie. I'm the same when it comes to motion sickness. Like even though I've been in VR for quite a long time now, it's still like I'm pretty good. But like if there's anything that's not been optimized as well, like a kart racing game, like Dash World is a prime example. It's another kart racer that's on there. That I couldn't play that for more than 15 minutes. I just had to refund that game immediately. It was just pure motion sick. But yeah,
I push myself to the limits.
Samson has a bucket next to him ready to go just in case. He's dedicated. He's always
It's been a
dedicated.
while. It really just takes like really low, like spotty frame rates that gets me.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah,
what?
I have problems with like smooth turn. Smooth turn always throws me down. Like, I can't play with smooth turn at all. Like, the speed depend. I always use tunneling view. Like in Galaxy Card, we made a lot of design decisions to make the game more comfortable. Like, even the design of the tracks are meant to be better for not getting sick.
VR, yeah.
And we have now. It used to be just an on-off button for the tunneling. Now it's a slider, and if you put it to the top, I can play it for, I don't know, an hour without problem. But if I turn it off, like, I don't know, man. It's my own game. I can't play it for more than 5 minutes without the tunneling. That's why the
That's
tunneling
why
is
you
there.
have. Yeah, that's why there's accessibility options, right? Because everyone's a bit different, and yeah. But so what I wanted to do just to wrap up the show here, there's one thing that we haven't spoke about really, and that's the level editor in Sky Climb, and that's I feel like that's such a that opens the doors of what you can do with then like you said before, the community, even though you've made the game, sometimes the community's imaginations create stuff that you wouldn't even think of and such. So first of all, like in terms of the level editor, how in depth is it? Is it I can obviously put my blocks and such around, but what can I do with it? Like, give us like the overview of the level editor first.
Like the single player campaign, we like to keep the freedom the player can. So we won't tell exactly what you are able to do, but we have to create limits. So you have a budget. We give every object you can put in the track has some points, and you have a limited amount of points you can put in the track. But you can use blockers, you can use enemies. They are like crocodiles, little suns. They chase the player. You can have the power-ups. I really enjoy the dolphin gun. The dolphin gun is like, he's a dolphin. You swim with him. He always also shoots, and it's present. And so we try to bring almost everything the game does. We couldn't bring to the level editor a mechanic that's specific from World 6. It's the Halloween world. Like you have, I brought this from Donkey Kong experience, like Donkey Kong Country 2. You had levels that were dark and you have to run to the light. So it's like this: when the level goes dark, you can't see the cubes. So you must assure that you are in a spot that the cubes are visible. But that is too heavy for the for the level editor. Also, the king from the fifth world, like he makes a lot of cubes disappear, and only certain cubes are visible. So the things that were messing with the cubes, those we couldn't bring. But besides this, I think that almost everything is do. Yes. And you can share with friends.
Yeah,
So you
that's
do
what I
a
was gonna ask.
level, and put to people to test your level, and it's been really interesting, especially in our Discord community. Like, we'll to see other people creations. An interesting story. I think we've redesigned the tutorial level for 7 times, 7 or 8 times. So it
Wow.
was really hard to make. And once we decided to redesign the level, because there was a guy, he created a level in the level editor,
Yeah.
and I wrote to him in Discord, said, "Oh, congratulations, you did the level. I'm so happy. Like, what was your intention?" I said, I think that I was playing with my friends, but I'm much better than my friends. And this, I tried to create a level that could level, everybody would be at the same level. And I said, man, and why you thought this? And he explained me, and then I played his level, and I understood like few things that were lacking in the tutorial. I said, man, it's a really
That's super
powerful
cool.
tool. Yes, and we brought this to what we learned. We brought to the official tutorial, but it's really good to grasp like what people think about the game, what they are not telling you, because you can check what they are trying to do, and maybe try to bring this to the core of the game.
And with the obviously they can share levels, which is great, but can they make multiplayer levels, or they their own? They're locked.
Not yet.
Not
That's
yet.
something we even rushed like in January trying to bring this feature, but it's really complex. We think that it will be a great addition. We'll try to put this in the roadmap to the future. It will
Right.
be really nice, not only to share the levels but play together. Like,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. To play something that is community driven altogether. You can see that even though you can obviously add levels yourself, the possibilities are endless with the level editor, right? With what they can do, and especially when they have probably like 80-90% of the tools available to them. And like you said, it would be fun for you because you could go in and see what the most popular levels are and go, okay, maybe we should do something similar for maybe a post-launch level
yeah,
because people really like this kind of level design or something. So
it, it's really another surprise we had is that the game, when you join the multiplayer, it has a lobby, and then it was a much simple version of the lobby, the first we had. We didn't expect people to spend so much time in the lobby.
Always spending time in the lobby.
Yeah, so we did a much more interesting level with a mirror for people to gather and take pictures, and some challenges so that we can have things to do
in
in
the
the
lobby.
lobby.
The social
It's,
aspect.
yeah, the social aspect is so strong.
Yeah, I love the characters too. I love the ones that you can design, and they're kind of cute. So I don't know, like the art style and such of what the models are. I don't know if you have a name for them or so, but they're like really nice, and you really want to customize it with your own color scheme and such. And they're very vibrant, and yeah, you can see that a lot of time has gone into developing those models because obviously that's what you see when you're in multiplayer. Which is a really nice thing to see. And I mean, like me and Samson and a lot of our community, we play a lot of Walkabout mini golf, and one of the cool features in there is customizing your character, and because you're interacting with them all the time when you're playing multiplayer and such. So I'm glad you spent a lot of time on that because I could definitely see that it's really well developed, the character customization. And I'm sure maybe another thing, maybe post launch, is probably adding more assets that they could probably use, right?
Yes, we think there's room for new assets and even seasonal assets. Like, you have this skin only if you participate in this
Yeah.
quarter. Like, next quarter it won't exist anymore, and then it gives a really feel of achievement, like for the place. I was there, I have
You
the.
can show it off. Yeah, I like
Yes,
that.
it's interesting.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, thank you so much, Raphael and Kite. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Just before we go here, so the game is available on App Lab right now. As for those of you who are listening to this, it's on App Lab right now, but will come out on the official store from April 4th. We got that
Yes,
right?
and also we plan to bring it to PlayStation VR 2 by the end of April. We don't have a date yet, but we hope that in April we can bring it there.
Oh, fantastic. I mean,
Nice.
the PlayStation fans are going to love that because they'll always be welcome for definitely new games. And is there for community aspects, do you have a Discord for
Yes.
Skyclimb? Yeah.
We do have a Discord,
VR.
and we can find players there. It's really active, so
Okay, perfect. What we can do is I'll get the link of that and I'll put it in the description of the show, so that if anyone wants to join that Skyclimb community, then obviously links in the description, as well as the links to obviously get it from App Lab, and or if you want to wait for the store, you can wait for the store. It's kind of up to you on that. But once again, thank you so much for both of you for joining us. It's been a great conversation, and I can't wait to play more of this game, more just to hear the music. I want to see what you've got in the other levels.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So it was so good to talk to you guys. It was a real
Absolutely.
pleasure.
It was a
Thank
pleasure,
you.
guys. Really, it's good to talk about us, but it's good to hear the feedback from you as well. Thanks for that.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone listening. Thank you, everyone, for watching as well. And we will see you next Thursday for another episode of Let's Talk Oculus.